Hello, welcome to this video. This is a different angle from my room as I'm recording from my desk and not my bed from the first video. Yes, I know I'm like a dollar store news reporter with this $12 mic, but this will have to make do. I would be doing a video on my top albums of 2020. Well, all of the albums I listened to and enjoyed, so there are 29 of them. And without further ado, let's begin. Starting in at number 29 is the Living Tombstone's debut album, 01. Now, when I first listened to this album, I thought it was quite interesting that they made an album because of what they're known as. They're known for making songs about video games, and they're kind of memey. So, it was quite a surprise that they made genuine music. It wasn't bad, to say the least, but I could see why some people might shy away from it. I mean, I could see middle school me enjoying this album, if I could say that the least, okay? I'm not trying to say it's cringy, but, it uses electronic rap and some elements of rock and combines them into this album. I feel like they had the potential to do better on this, but there are some parts where like the raps were awkward, and it's all right. It's a strong 6. Number 28 is BENEE's debut album, Hey UX. BENEE blew up when her song Super Lonely on her EP Stella and Steve blew up on TikTok, and I think this was a big jump from her career, and this is a pretty nice record. She managed to get some really cool features like Lily Allen, Grimes, Flo Milli in there. And at first, I thought that these features were kind of like out there, but it took a couple listens and I've come to dig them. And it's pretty chill, and I felt like she has a lot of potential to improve on her music. And if you like indie pop, that type of music, I think you would like this album. And BENEE, she's cool, yeah. This is another strong 6 album. Number 27 is Miley Cyrus's Plastic Hearts. Now, this was my first introduction to Miley Cyrus, as I've never actually listened to a Miley Cyrus record before. I was never really into her before. I remembered her blowing up in like 2013, if that was the right year, in Wrecking Ball. That was something. And I feel like this is a really good rebranding to her career, how she's not as out there as before, but she's more like embracing it, I guess. And honestly, I'd say I really like this record because her voice really fits the pop rock sound as her known raspy voice. It was really complimentary, and I'd say I like this record, some of the songs, and that's my last strong 6 album. Now to the 7s. Number 26 is Gupi's None. I think this is his debut album, so I remember hearing the song False Awakening that appeared in my daily mix, and I really dug that song. And to be honest, coming back to this record, I don't think I enjoyed it as much as the first few listens, ever since he kind of made that tweet about like him finding out that PewDiePie listens to his music. It was kind of weird because like you put your music on a public platform, anyone can listen to your music type of thing. I try to separate art from the artist, and I feel like the production's quite abrasive, hyperpop out there, but I think overall, it's alright, yeah, it's my light 7 record. Next is 25. This is technically not an album, but an EP. It's Foster the People's In the Darkest of Nights, Let the Birds Sing. Quite the mouthful of the title. Now, I was really looking forward to this record as Foster the People. I've been a fan of them for almost 2 years. And I was like, they release an album every 3 years for their past 3 albums. I wonder when they're going to release theirs. And I really like the singles Lamb's Wool and The Things We Do and Under the Moon, as those were really promising features. And honestly, the overall sound, it had a lot of potential, and I liked it. And the thing is, yeah, I do like it, but I feel like it would have been a lot better if it was a full-length record and not an EP. But I could see why a lot of people find this record a disappointment. In some ways, I kind of do, but I still like it. So this is another light 7. Number 24 is Remi Wolf's I'm Allergic to Dogs. Now, like I said, this is another EP, but I added it here. Honestly, every track is a hit. I really liked it, and also, it's really cool that she got a lot more recognition, and I discovered her because her song Photo ID blew up on TikTok. And honestly, to be honest, Photo ID isn't my favorite track on there. It would probably have to be Disco Man. Yeah, sorry, not sorry. Yeah, it's just overall fun, electronic pop, R&B, and she's got a pretty cool sound that almost anyone can vibe to. This is a solid 7. Number 23 is A.G. Cook's 7G. Now, I'd say I'm a pretty good fan of his production style, as he produces for Charli and PC Music, and I overall love PC music and hyperpop music. And I'd say this record, it intimidated me, being like over 40, it's 49 songs long and 2.5 hours long, which is a pretty long time investment. And I'd say it was pretty nice. There's definitely some gems in there, but overall feels like a bunch of gemstones in like a desert. Like, there's some that felt like sand and some that felt like gemstones. I'm repeating this analogy, I don't know. And yeah, overall it was nice and I liked it, but it was long. I don't really like long albums, to be honest. So this is actually a solid to strong 7 for me. Number 22 is Magdalena Bay's Mini Mix Volume 2. This was my first introduction to Magdalena Bay, as a friend recommended it to me. Shout out to Hydro. And it was a really fun EP. I really liked it. Well, it's a mixtape, but it feels like an EP. I don't know. And each track, just with the leads, high-pitched vocals, and the nice production. I should have researched their names. I honestly don't know much about them, but I really like them, and I hope to listen to more of them in the future. Number 21 is Potsu's Reaching for a Star. This was my first introduction to Potsu, as the song B, featuring Rav, I don't know, was on my daily mix. I really dug that song and decided to discover the album and artist. Potsu making chill beats and lo-fi. And lo-fi is a pretty nice and simple genre to get into, so I like that, but there's also some elements of like jazz and rap. Yeah, having features of Rav and Atwood in there, they were pretty nice, I'd have to say. And there were also some really cool vocalists like Adrian Proenza. I'm not sure how to pronounce her name. And also, I really like the bass in that album. It's chill as a bassist. Yeah, I really liked it. My Big Z. White 8. Number 20 is KDA's debut EP, All Out. I remember hearing their debut single, Pop Stars, in 2018, as it blew up everywhere on the internet, as it was advertising for League of Legends new skins. And even though I never played League of Legends or don't and not really actively listen to K-pop, I really liked that song, and I was thinking it would be really cool if they made a comeback, and they did. I really liked this EP, just each song serving a banger. There's not really much depth to it. It's just surface level bangers, but overall, I liked it. This is, I'd say, light 8. Number 19 is The Strokes, The New Abnormal. Let me repeat it again. This was my introduction to The Strokes. I know I'm pretty late on listening to them, but I liked it. It was like an indie rock sound, and I kind of dug and liked that sound. It was honestly a vibe, but each song kind of felt long, but it took a couple listens to dig into it, and also like the jam session endings towards it feels kind of immersive, like you are actually seeing them perform. And the cover looks pretty cool, and it was cool that awesome that they made a comeback after several years, I've heard. Yeah, and shout out to my friend Wadu for recommending me this album. Yeah, this is a 8 out of 10. Number 18 is Haken's Virus. This was the second album I listened to. First one was Vector. A shout out to Aiden for introducing me to Haken. They're a gent prog metal band. I've actually come to recently enjoy and took a couple listens to get into that genre overall. And this was pretty promising and awesome record from Haken. I should really listen to them more. And I really liked this record. And it was interesting seeing Messiah Complex having 5 songs dedicated to that, each like feels like having a transition or mosaic into this overall section of the album. That was pretty cool. And Carousel being a 10-minute song, but like the progressions and build-ups was pretty awesome. 8 out of 10. Number 17 is Sevdaliza's Shabrang. Introduction to Sevdaliza. She's really cool, and honestly also an introduction to an Iranian woman's music in general, as I need to diversify my music pool, honestly. It was really cool seeing this trip hop, dark pop production with her shaky but quiet but strong vocals. It was definitely an interesting and cool sound for me to immerse in. And even though it was like over an hour long, each track contributed heavily, and I really like this album. This is a strong 8 out of 10. Number 16 is Thundercat's It Is What It Is. Now, I think out of all of Thundercat's records I listened to, which was Golden Age, Drunk, and this album, I think I liked It Is What It Is most. First of all, it took a few listens to get into Thundercat, and I thought the sounds of the past 2 records I listened to, I didn't really dig first listen. I'd probably have to re-listen to them again. But I really dug It Is What It Is within first listen. I heard it won a Grammy. Good job, Thundercat. And each song's hit with like nice bass, and he is an amazing bass player with his own noticeable tone. Like, if you heard Thundercat's bass playing, I'm pretty sure you can recognize it. Shout out to Wing for introducing me to Thundercat. Haha. And I really like this. It's a strong 8 out of 10. Number 15 is, I'm probably gonna butcher this up, Klô Pelgag's Notre-Dame-des-Sept-Douleurs. Oh man, excuse my French. Just
Notre-Dame-des-Sept-Douleurs.
Yeah, that. This was my first introduction to Klô. Shout out to Jade for introducing me to Klô. And I really like this album with its Baroque pop and catchy melodies and her meringue-like voice. It was light and soft and enjoyable, as I'd like to put it. Yeah, and the cover being pretty cool. It's a painting, gives off an older time, like a portrait, a painting of it. And I really liked it. Yeah, this is a contender for a strong 8. Number 14 is YUKIKA Soryota, aka Soul Lady. And introduction to YUKIKA, she's amazing, and it's a Korean city pop album, each providing a banger and some nice interludes to be immersive within the album. And honestly, it was quite the serve. I really liked it. I keep saying I really like it. I really need to improve on my diction. So, and also there was some nice use of bass, especially slap in the song Soul Lady, the self-titled song, and some others I couldn't really name right as of now, but there's some really nice bass in other songs. Also drums and vocals. Her vocals are really cute, nice, delightful. Yes, a strong 8. Number 13 is Dorian Electra's sophomore album, My Agenda. I really like this record as it uses its songwriting irony to make fun of incels, edgelords, and homophobes. It was kind of funny, and I dug that. It's just genius. Dorian Electra, you're a genius. And honestly, I preferred their debut album, Flamboyant, but this is pretty good, almost as good as Flamboyant. Yeah, and its uses of hyperpop and abrasive production comes iconic to Dorian's androgynous vocals. It just feels cool seeing Dorian Electra make this flashy comeback. This is a strong 8 out of 10. Number 12 is Tame Impala's The Slow Rush. This was the second album I listened to Tame Impala, first being Currents. I honestly really love Tame Impala now, and I'd say consider myself a fan. I got introduced to Tame Impala through the Gorillaz comments sections as they really wanted to collab, and I wanted to know who Kevin is. He's a cool dude. Slow Rush gives disco, psychedelic vibes. Has, I think, an overall kind of more chill vibe than Currents, but more modern. Actually, I think Currents is more chill. I don't know. But I think it's much more disco, but also like more modern. I don't know how to describe it. I really like the bass lines in this, especially Is It True and Breathe Deeper, Borderline. Those are, I'd say, my favorite tracks. Yeah, it's a solid to strong 8 for me right here. Number 11 is DJ Sabrina, the Teenage DJ, Charmed. My introduction to DJ Sabrina, I saw it on the Rate Your Music charts being in the top 10. It had a pretty high rating. I was thinking, this must be really good. I looked at the length being over 3 hours long, and I was like, oh geez, that length intimidates me. So I dedicated most of my Saturday to listening to that album. It was actually really good, quite ambient, vibable, and just something fun to dance to. Being electronic, pop, sampling, just DJ vibes, honest, all around. And also, Sabrina, she seems like such a cool artist as she's pretty interactive with her fans, and she feels really underrated. Yeah, I really like this album, despite it being really long, longer than 7G. And if I could have the opportunity to listen to it again, I could, but I just need to find a lot of time for that, as it's a big time investment, 3 hours. This is a light 9. Number 10 is Black Dresses, Peaceful as Hell. This is the second album I listened to them, first being Forever in Your Heart, as it's a pretty good album of 2021, but that will be for a future video. This is their 2020 album, and honestly, I'd say I prefer this over Forever in Your Heart, and honestly, I feel like it's a bit of a better, I think it will be a better introduction to someone who's never listened to Black Dresses, as I think it has a much more cohesive, structured, less experimental sound than Forever in Your Heart. And yeah, it definitely still very much is experimental, as that is a big part of Black Dresses. And I should really get into them more, and honestly, I really liked it. It's like some rock, electronic, some metal elements in there, and industrial. It's quite out there and abrasive, just their iconic abrasive known sounds. Yeah, this is a solid 9. Ironically, taking this ranking at number 9 is Tricot's 10. This is their 5th album, celebrating their 10th anniversary with 10 songs. I really like this introduction. This was my reintroduction to Tricot, as when I first listened to them, I didn't really dig them, but now I'm just like getting back into them after second listens to their entire discography. They're a Japanese math rock band with their nice guitars, just tight bass and catchy drum beats. Warp, Summer Night House, and Omae I think are their strongest tracks, which are their singles. But my favorite non-single would have to be Haku, or Fried Rice. Yeah, it's pretty simple. I'd say a fairly good introduction to tricot if you're more into like something more simple and poppy rather than just like full of depth or just full on math rock. But yeah, if you want to get more into math rock or want to get more deeper into their stuff, probably their debut album The would be good. But their latest album 10 I really liked, and this is ironically I'm giving it a 9. I'm sorry. Number 8 is Carly Rae Jepsen's dedicated side B. I wanted to get more into Carly's discography as I really liked both sides of Emotion, and I'd like to say I do like both sides of Dedicated. Serving pop bangers just as good as Dedicated, as usual. Carly serving pop perfection as usual. And I'm really glad I've gotten into Carly because most of her discography is pretty good. I've not listened to Tug of War yet, and I'm not sure if I will, because I heard it's not good, but I don't know. But yeah, Dedicated Side B, I liked it. First listen, I really need to re-listen to it as I do not remember some of the tracks, but it's a 9 for me. Number 7 is Protest the Heroes Palimpsest, their latest album, as it released of 2020. And actually my introduction to Protest the Hero. Shout out to that guy in the Jared Dines video who freaking named the entire Protest the Hero discography. I think that brought a lot of exposure to them in general, and I probably would not have known who they were because of that dude. And Palimpsest, it was really awesome as it blew me away first listen when I finished it with its hard gent metal instrumentals, its strong vocals from Rhodey Walker, and it's also some political undertones towards it, as it was true and depthful in some ways. Yeah. And also its piano interludes were just really nice and peaceful, quite contrasting but complementary towards additionally adding to the album. This is I'd say it's a decent, solid to strong 9 here. Number 6 is Fiona Apple's Fetch the Bolt Cutters. I have recently gotten to Fiona as of this year. Yeah, I know, getting to Fiona in 2021, kind of embarrassing. But overall, I really like this record as it was her 8-year comeback from the Idler Wheel. I'm not even going to say the whole title because that is long, in 2012. So her comeback, it was quite out. It's definitely out there with its experimental percussion and her out there vocals, especially with the dolphin noises and I Want You to Love Me and the dog barking. And also it just discovers other types of subjects that go in depth about being a woman and just togetherness. It was just really nice, and it was a really interesting experience. Another solid 9 record. Number 5 is Dua Lipa's Future Nostalgia. Now, introduction to Dua Lipa, honestly. I remembered her song New Rules blowing up in like 2018 or 17 when her debut record. I have not listened to that, but I heard it's just not as good as Future Nostalgia. It's like having disco influences, but also modern beats towards it. And it really does live up to the name. It does serve Future Nostalgia. The album cover being really interesting and iconic as she's just driving a car in the moon, I guess. And like just pop banger after pop banger. Definitely for sure. And revival of the bass towards it, which has some pretty catchy bass lines. I did learn some of them, but I think I forgot them. RIP. Yeah. And it's not gonna lie, Boys Will Be Boys felt a little out of place there, but overall I really liked it. It's a solid to strong 9. Number 4 is Charli XCX's How I'm Feeling Now. This was my introduction to Charli, as Detonate appeared in my daily mix. It was really catchy, and I think that's still my favorite track of the album. And honestly, it's abrasive and experimental. Overall, much more experimental and out there than Charli. And I honestly prefer How I'm Feeling Now to Charli, despite both of them being really good albums. And it was just pop banger after pop banger. A.G. Cook being the GOAT out here, producing for her and this album. For real. And yeah, I really love this record. This is a 10. Number 3 is Jessie Ware's What's Your Pleasure? And it has a pretty strong disco 80s influence towards its songs. And it was just bop and banger, just hit after hit. Honestly, it was really catchy and really easy to groove into. And I really loved it. It's honestly, I've seen so much hype about it, and it does live up to the hype. Jessie Ware, it was my introduction to her. I really want to listen to some of her other stuff, but I heard it's not as good as What's Your Pleasure, so I don't know. And yeah, I really love this What's Your Pleasure. This is another 10. Number 2, the runner-up of Album of the Year. This was so hard this year to figure out what was my Album of the Year because of 2 really awesome, perfect, outstanding albums, and I have to pick which one has to be the album of the year and which one has to be the runner-up. So without further ado, I will be announcing the runner-up. It is Gorillaz' Song Machine Season 1, Strange Times. I've been a big Gorillaz fan. I've been listening to them for 5 years, almost 5 years. They're my favorite band of all time, and I was so happy, and I just consumed every single of theirs when it was releasing throughout the year, and was so hyped when it finally released at the end of the year, which was at October. It was just, honest, the features were amazing. It introduced me to a lot of new artists I really like, especially St. Vincent, Shy, JPEG Mafia. Those artists are really awesome, too, and the features were just really good, and Tootie, his vocal is shining as usual, and I was just really glad that they released an awesome masterpiece of an album since Plastic Beach. Actually, yes, I've been wearing this shirt. I know I've been wearing the same shirt since that Radiohead review on the first video. Yes, I shower and change. It's just my favorite shirt. Shut up. This is another 10. And now, what we've all been waiting for, my album of the year. Like I said, this was hard, and I had to pick an album of the year. So without further ado, drum roll, it is Rina Sawayama's debut album, Sawayama. Thank you, Rina Sawayama, for releasing this album with its pop. It's just reinventing pop overall with her amazing vocals, just a serve, and alt rock guitars, and just really out there production, just pop banger after pop banger, and each having like a deep message towards it. It's just like, wow, she's just really that good. And I'd have to thank Rina for this album, because as a young Asian girl being raised in the West, I could kind of relate to some of this songs and her and this record. It's just, I'm just really captivated by it. It's one of my top listened albums of all time. And it's just, wow. It's a really good album. You should, if I were to recommend an album, it would be that one. It's a solid 10.